And also, don't you think of these kind of movements, I don't know, I become cynical. I don't know. Remember Me Too movements? The moment that Biden has been accused of sexual harassment, it's gone. Like in the beginning,
Mm,
it was such a big deal, right? There
yeah,
were one after another, but they are all in the entertainment industry, one after another
yeah,
have to be canceled, etc. But then once it got to the real powerful people, Biden, then okay, forget about Me Too. And then there's also peace movement. That lots
yeah,
of times war started with a peace movement. I think there's a guy, I think he also had a quote. This guy's name is Emmett Terrill. He's a conservative commentator. He said every peace movement of this century has been followed by war. So
yeah,
you, and of course the whole climate change, the environmental movement. Remember Greenpeace? They were
yeah,
so active everywhere.
yeah,
It seems like every movement maybe started with the good intentioned people, but somehow along the way they changed. They
yes.
either become hijacked or somehow they change their goal or something. Don't you think?
Well, I've seen this myself. I mean, I've had many contacts at many times with this sort of industry of NGOs and movements. And Greenpeace, by the way, I've had some contacts with. And what happens is eventually they start to get funding. They get funding from all sorts of powerful donors. The
Hmm.
governments then begin to step in, and the activism gets diverted towards the political objectives of the funders, and it ceases to be real anymore.
Hmm.
So the people that you see running these organizations are becoming very rich. They
Yeah.
still maintain, they preserve the appearance of activists. They dress in certain ways. I mean, they don't wear business suits, they
Mhm.
wear jeans and t shirts and things of that kind. But the outlook, the character, the feel of these organizations has changed completely. And I'm afraid this goes on all the time, and it affects everything. I mean, Amnesty International, an organization which I'm sure in China
Mhm.
people have no reason to like, and I can understand
Yeah.
why, by the way. When it was set up in the 1960s, was a very different organization from
Hmm.
the one you see today. It was set up by a small group of lawyers and it operated in private
Uh-huh.
and it communicated privately with governments, and it was mostly focused on trying to help particular prisoners, which rightly, sometimes wrongly, other times it
Hmm.
decided were good causes. It wasn't this big, public, huge, very rich organization that it is today, which again is basically instrumentalized to attack America's enemies.
In other words, when the movement starts, maybe it's a good idea and
Yeah,
people with good hearts, but then gradually either it will be hijacked like the
yeah.
Amnesty International, or it becomes a political inconveniences, then it would disappear like the Me Too,
Well,
right?
exactly. Exactly. Yes, exactly. I mean, Me Too was a. I find Me Too particularly sinister, by the
Yeah.
way, actually, in many ways. And you're absolutely right. They've shown absolutely no interest in all of the. I mean, you talked about the stop with Biden. I mean, they've shown no interest in the Epstein affair, for example.
No,
Where
that's
are
right.
they about that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, nobody even talk about Me Too anymore.
No, no,
There's not mentioned.
no.
It's it's particularly disappointing for those people who
Yeah.
started this movement. You would think
Yes.
they would have some guts or some spine or something.
Yes.
One woman, Alicia Milano, I think he's big on Me Too. He's a Hollywood actor, I don't know, third tier, fourth tier. But she even took down from her ex account, Twitter, back then it was Twitter. People like to put some things that it's important for them. So she put Me Too under her name. But then when she was criticized for not saying anything about Biden, the Tara Reid affair, she took it down. Instead of
Absolutely.
saying, okay, I do feel uncomfortable about this whole incident. No, instead of saying that,
Yeah.
she just took down her Me Too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that
Right.
was it. And the other thing I find all those warmongering people, the hawks, they very much like to use the word deterrence, right?
Yeah.
When they talk about the nuclear war, like Albert Jacobi, if you read his article, He's talking about deterrence all the time. Like he's the peace loving
Yeah.
person.
Yes.
They like
Yes.
to do that. Yeah.
Well, using words like deterrence in an aggressive way.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, trying to reshape the whole narrative. I mean, the manipulation of language
Hmm.
is something that which we do an awful lot in the West, and it is very very bad. I think I've discussed this before. That one of the things that long ago I
Hmm.
remember reading. I can never pronounce his name properly. Confucius.
孔夫子
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
Confucius. Uh-huh.
I mean,
孔夫子
this concept that he had and his followers had of the rectification of words,
that's right. Hmm.
using words properly,
Hmm.
and how important that is. And it's a point I've made many, many times.
Hmm.
Um, and of course, we need it desperately in the West,
Yeah.
because when a word like deterrence is used in the way that Elbridge Colby uses it, he doesn't mean deterrence. He means the
Hmm.
opposite of
Yeah.
deterrence.
Yeah. Yeah. And then this whole
He means intimidation. That's what
yes.
he really means.
Yeah. Hmm.
Mhm.
And this whole thing about tariffs, in reality, it eventually, whatever Trump's deal is, it's going to be on us. It's a tax on the American
Well,
public.
indeed.
That's
Well,
what
it
it
is.
is.
Well, it is indeed. And as we discussed in, I think, the
Hmm.
last program or the previous program, I mean, the pretense now that it's anything to do with protecting American industry
Yeah.
is is gradually evaporating, because they're being used to promote political objectives.
Yeah.
So you're going to tariff China because
Hmm.
Russia continues to advance in Ukraine. I mean, it's ludicrous.
I recently visited a store, a local like Asian store. It's not just Asian, but they have a lot of European products as well. So it's an international store. And I know the owner, and she was telling me, she said this tariff really is killing her because she said she has to increase prices, but she
Yeah.
said she tried to absorb some of the increase herself. But she said if it's 70%, apparently there was some beer or something was like from
Yeah.
Europe, I believe, like 70% now. And she said 70% I can absorb 20%, but that's still 50% on my customers. So
Yeah.
what Trump is doing is hurting the consumers and the small
Oh,
business like that. That's what he's
absolutely.
doing.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what he's doing.
Well, he got his idea. Like you said, he doesn't change, right? He got
No,
his idea.
no,
And
no,
yeah.
no amount of evidence or argument is going to make him change his
Hmm.
mind.
Yeah. So we will see. Okay. Next week, let's talk again. There's always
Absolutely.
a lot to talk and very
A
interesting to talking to you.
huge pleasure to speak to you again. Sophia, what is that in the background, if I could just ask?
I think it's one of the garden that I visited, probably in Suzhou, but I'm not sure
Wow.
because
Wow.
not only Suzhou, but Wuxi, where my father come from, they also have nice gardens there. So it
Right,
could
I've
be from
heard.
there as well.
I didn't know you were from. I didn't know that your family had it was from that part. The land of fish and rice.
Yeah, yes, yes,
Is
that's right.
yeah.
From that area. Yes. My dad
Yes.
from my both my
Yes.
parents from those areas. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Great. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
See you next week, Sophia. Have a great week. See you
You
then.
too.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.